Hey guys, this is a level 2 practice test for the ASVAB. So there are four levels in all, and so I'll post the links in the description for the other practice tests. So again, this is level 2. So there's 20 questions. So the way that I would go about doing this is, if you haven't already, is in the description are all 20 questions, right? 20 multiple choice questions. Is I would go ahead and answer those, and then watch the video to see how to solve all the problems and see how many you knew how to do. Um, we do have a mobile app. And so it works the same way. So that's where these levels are coming from, right? The app divides all these topics into levels. Um, I put a link in the description as well for that. Might be worth checking out. It's free to install. A lot more engaging, interactive, and honestly helpful than this, but this can be really helpful too. Okay, so let's jump right in there. So first question: absolute value. And let me get my marker going. Okay, so when we see absolute value like this, absolute value of 2x plus 5 equals 15, what we're going to do is we have two problems to solve for. So we'll have like 2x plus 5 equals 15, and then 2x plus 5 equals negative 15. That's what you got to do for absolute value. Okay. One thing to remember about absolute value is that it can't equal a negative. So what that means is this number right here, that 15, like if that said negative 15, then the answer would be empty set. We're going to get to that in a second. Okay, so we solved two of these, right? So we'll do this one first. Subtract 5 from both sides, right? So just get that 2x by itself. 2x equals 10. Okay, and if we divide by 2, x is 5. So that's one of our answers. And then we got to solve the other one too. Okay. Again, subtract 5 from both sides. Okay. And so negative 15 minus 5 is negative 20. Remember, as you think of like a number line, and if that's really confusing for you, we go over that with a few examples in the level 1 practice test. Okay, we'll go over that in a second. 2x equals negative 20, divide each side by 2, x is negative 10. Okay, so with the negative stuff, okay, so if I have negative 15, when it's minus a number, it's going to go like negative 16, negative 17, and so on, So like negative 15, for example, negative 15 minus 2 is negative 17 right here, right? Negative 15 minus 5 is negative 20. Negative 15 minus 10, negative 25. Okay, so that's a level 1 concept, but obviously it's showing up here in an absolute value question. Okay, so it's a long description, maybe too much, I don't know. Anyway, the x equals 5 and negative 10. Answer choice B for number 1. Okay, question 2. Okay, now we have two absolute value questions here at the beginning. And so for all of these, if you in the description, if you go down, there will be a link for a video that's just about absolute value. So like if this is confusing you, there will be a link and it'll say like question 1 and 2. Tap on that. That goes into a video that just focuses in on absolute value, so you can get more examples, more description, so on. And then to take it even further, the app will have 20, 30, 40 different examples of absolute value questions with feedback for every question. And so that's a way to get even more practice. Okay, absolute value of 4x minus 2 plus 5 equals 4. Okay, so before we even deal with the absolute value, we want to get rid of anything that's not the absolute value, right? So we'll just subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, and then you can see, so I have 4 minus 5, and that equals negative 1, right? So then you would have 4x minus 2 absolute value equals negative 1, yes? And if you remember what I just said a minute ago, it can never equal a negative, okay? Because we can't create two equations because we already have that one as a negative. So whenever you have the absolute value by itself and the answer is negative, the answer empty set, right? That's a little symbol for an empty set, right? So there you go. If we see, so you always want to be prepared for that. Those do show up a lot on the ASVAB, but you will be dealing with an absolute value question, whether it's the empty set type question or whether it's a question more similar to question number 1, hard to say, right? But you want to be ready for absolute value. Okay, question 3. Okay, so if you had a calculator, that would be easier, right? But we don't get to use one. Okay, so here's how you solve these. It's not too bad, actually. So we look at 1 and 400, and you're like, I don't know what that equals, right? So forget about these two zeros at first. Okay, so what we want to be able to know is that 1 out of 4 is 25%, right? 1 over 4 is 0.25. Okay, so if we know that, we can do the rest. Okay, so when we add a 0, like now what if it's 1 out of 40? Then we just move the decimal point over 1. So rather than 25%, now 2.5%. Yeah? Okay, and then if we add another 0, another 0, 1 out of 400, 0.25%. That's how you do it. Okay, really not a whole lot of math there, right? Much simpler way to go about it, right? And so if it was 1 out of 4,000, then it would be 0.025%, right? So you just keep at the decimal point, just keeps going 1 to the left with every 0 that we add. That's all you got to know, right? For being able to divide bigger numbers like that. Okay. All right, 4.8 divided by 0.06. Okay, so another tricky one. And again, I'll repeat myself a few times here probably. You know, like if that one you saw it, but like, I'd like to see a few more examples of that, make sure I believe that it works and whatnot, is go into down to the bottom of the description, find the link for question number 3, and then you'll see a bunch more examples of the same thing. Okay, 4.8 divided by 0.06. So we would like to get rid of those decimals, yes? Because otherwise, this is a pain in the butt to do. Okay, so we have, the way we do this one is 1, 2. 2 decimal places this way, and then up here we have 1, and then we have nothing here. We need 1 extra. So when we do what we just did right there, that extra spot, if there's nothing there, we just put a 0 there. Okay, so what that means is now I can write this as 480 divided by 6. Okay, and now it's manageable, right? And so that's all you're doing. Whatever you do to the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction, right? Right here, we went 2 spots to the right to get rid of the decimal place. Then we had to do that up here. There was only 1 place, and then there was basically nothing. So that second one, we just add a 0. That's just the rule, okay? And so when you divide 480 divided by 6, we end up with an 80. Answer choice A is the right one. Okay, and that's how you do it. All right, that was question 4. 5. Okay, comparing fractions. Okay, these can be a little tricky. I'd be surprised that you saw this exact choice of too close to call, but I would cross that one off at least before I even started. Just know there's no way that's the right answer. They're not going to say that. Okay, when we're comparing 2 fractions, we need the denominator to be the same. Okay, so we're doing basically like common denominator type stuff. And if how to find that is confusing at all, level 1, we go over that with a few different examples. So you just go to that level 1 practice test. Okay, 8/10 or 7/8. So what we need, it's very hard to compare this unless you're just extraordinary at math. Without, we need the denominator to be the same. Here, the one denominator is 10, the other denominator is 8. Okay, so when we want to find that, we'll just multiply those two together so that the denominator will be 80 for both of these. And then whichever one has the higher numerator, the top number, is going to be the correct answer. Okay, so with this one, 64 out of 80. Okay, so 8/10 is the same as 64 out of 80. By the way, I would not cross off they are equal. It's possible, although unlikely, but still possible that you do this and it ends up that they're equal. Okay, 7 times 10 is 70 over 80. Okay, so 70 is bigger than 64, and because of that, then we know that 7/8 is a bigger fraction than 8/10. And the question was, is 8/10 greater than 7/8? So the answer is no. Okay, question 6. All right, so we got some fraction stuff. So we had some introduction to this in level 1. And so if you see that, like, well, there was like, well, I thought this was just a level 1 concept, and then something very similar shows up in level 2. It's not that we forgot what we did in level 1. It's that if they show up in more than one place, pretty good chance it's going to show up on your test. Right? Okay. So it just means with all this adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions, we got to make sure we're familiar with that because it will show up. Okay, so let's do the adding part first. So at first we have 2/3 plus 3/4. That's a 4, if you can believe it. Okay, and so again, the denominators are different, right? We have a denominator of 3. We have a denominator of 4. So in this form, we cannot add fractions. We need the denominators to be the same. Okay, so we want 12, yeah? 3 times 4 is 12, there at the bottom. So 2/3 times 4 over 4 is 8/12. Okay, and 3/4. And this one will be times 3 over 3, because we want that denominator to be 12. And that's 9/12, right? Okay, so these are our two fractions that we're adding together. Okay, so 8/12 and 9/12. Let's try to remember that while I erase. 8/12 and 9/12. Just don't have a lot of room to work with. Okay, so I got 8/12 plus 9/12. Okay, so when we're adding fractions, denominator stays the same, right? As long as these two are both the same, which is the whole point of what we just did. Okay, and 8 plus 9 is 17. Okay, so there we go. So now we've added those two. So now we have 17/12. And it says divided by 1/3, right? Okay, and so when we're dividing fractions, we flip it and multiply. So the reciprocal, or the flipping of 1/3 is 3 over 1. Okay, and now we're ready to solve this baby. Okay, we can reduce this down. 3 and 12. If we divide each side by 3, becomes 1 and 4. That is called cross-canceling. And then we are left with 17 times 1 is 17. 4 times 1 is 4. 17/4 is our answer. There it is right there. Answer choice B. Any of that stuff is confusing. Again, go down, look at the link for adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing fractions, and that will have more examples for you, so you're more comfortable with it. And also we go over it quite a bit in level 1 practice test. Okay. Improper fraction. So just so we know, an improper fraction is one where the numerator is greater than the denominator. Okay, so as we look at these, we can see, okay, so answer choice B, we know is wrong. Okay, which, because in 1/2, the numerator is smaller than the denominator. Okay, so that's just a proper fraction. Improper fraction, like 28/20, the 28 is bigger than 20 and is in the numerator, that's improper, and the same for answer choices C and D. Okay, so let's go ahead and add these up though. So we have 3/4 plus 4/5. Okay, so another common denominator experience for you. Probably starting to see why you really have to be familiar with how to do that first. If there's any questions about getting common denominator, we want to go and watch that video first. Okay, so 3/4 is the same as 15/20. 4/5. We multiply this one by 4/4, right? Because we want that denominator to be 20. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, and so now we've got 20 as our denominator, and then we're just going to add the two numerators together. So 15 plus 16 is 31. Over 20. There's our answer, and we see answer choice D has 31/20, and that's how we do it. Okay, so again, improper fraction, number in the numerator bigger than denominator. Okay, perhaps when you were doing this, when you saw it just in the description, YouTube doesn't make us easy to write mixed numbers. So a mixed number, all of these are mixed numbers, right? So like when I have 1 and 7/12, that's a mixed number. 19/12 is improper. Okay, so they only gave the answer choices here are all mixed numbers. But anyway, just to make sure you got that, that's what it means when they ask for a mixed number, is that it'll say like 1 and then a fraction. Okay. So it says write 17/12 as a mixed number. Okay, so we start off 17/12. Okay, so 12/12 would be 1. Yeah, 12/12 equals just 1. Okay, and then if we kind of kept going with that, like if it was 13/12, that would be 1 and 1/12. Okay, because that 13 is 1 greater than this. That's what that would equal. Now, when it's 17/12, right? 17 is 5 greater than 12. So 17/12 equals, answer choice D there, 1 and 5/12. You know, as you kept going with more examples, 19/12, let's say, since 19 is 7 greater than 12, 19/12 would be 1 and 7/12. Things like that. So I just want to be familiar with how to turn improper fractions into mixed fractions or mixed numbers. That's what we're doing there. All right. On to some word problems. Okay, so excuse me, the price of my plane ticket was $140. but now it's gone up 40%. What is the price now? Okay, so as you look at the answer choices, the first thing that you should do is eliminate answer choice A. Always nice if we can eliminate something, gives us a better chance if we get stuck in what we know we didn't do the math right, or we do the math and it's none of the answer choices, is at least we should know eliminate answer choice A gives us a better chance if we have to guess. Okay, the other ones all seem like it's possible, right? So when you have this, you got your 140, and you're going to multiply it by, that's a decimal, 0.4. Okay, and that's going to give us the number that it went up. Okay, when you see these numbers like this, like there's one number it's a lot smaller, there's a very good chance, and we'll see when we multiply here in a second, that this is going to be 56, right? And so let's see if it is. So 4 times 0, 0. 4 times 4 is 16. There's our 6. Carry that 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Yeah, 56. Okay. So now it's tempting to think we're done and go ahead, and that's why they put that 56 there, right? Because that's just the amount that it went up, right? It went up by $56. To get the actual answer, we need to go 140 plus 56. That equals 196, which is answer choice C. Okay, and that's how you do it. So when you're multiplying these, you're taking your 140, 40% is written out as 0.4 as a decimal, right? When you multiply those two together, which is what you should do, that just shows you how much that 40% increase represents, right? But it doesn't give you the total, right? Then you have to go back and add it to what the original number was. Okay, percent increase. This might be the hardest math question in level 2. So it says Joseph put on 15 pounds of muscle this year. Last year he weighed 180. What was the percent increase from last year to this year? Okay, so there's a formula you got to know here, and it's new. So in this case, it's going to be, he has this new weight from having gained 15 pounds, minus old divided by old. This is just one you're going to have to commit to your memory. Okay, that is the formula for percent change. And I would be very surprised if it didn't show up on the ASVAB somewhere. In some form that you're asked for percent change. It might be percent discount, might be percent increase. Okay, so last year he weighed 180 and he put on 15 pounds of muscle, right? So the new weight is 195, right? Just 180 plus 15 is 195. The old weight, 180. Divided by, and it's very important that we get this right, divided by the old weight, not divided by the new weight. If you divide it by the new weight, you'll get the wrong answer. Okay, now 195 minus 180 is 15. Carry down that 180. 15 divided by 180, and if we go ahead and divide that out, it does come to 8.33%. Okay, and so that is answer choice B. So it ends up on this one. So if you had divided it by 195, then you would have got the 7.7%, right? So that's the wrong answer, and that's a tricky one that they throw in there because it can be, I mean, it's not a hard formula to remember necessarily, new minus old divided by old, but people get a lot of people make the mistake where rather than old, they think it's new minus old divided by new, and they get an answer that doesn't represent percent change. So anyway, that's percent change. It's one you got to know. Okay, prime factors. This one also one of the harder math questions. What are the prime factors of 24? Okay, so first let's just list out all the factors of 24. Okay, so we start off like 1, and over here 24. And just different ways that, when we're saying factors, just different ways we can get numbers to multiply to be 24. Okay, we'll deal with the prime aspect of it here in a second. So first just do this. 2 times 12 is 24, so that works. 3 times 8, 24, that works. 4 times 6 is 24. 5 doesn't work. No other numbers work. Okay, so that's all the factors of 24. Okay, and then your next step is figuring out which one of these are prime. Okay, so remember, for prime is, first of all, no even numbers can be prime except for 2. 2 is prime. No other evens work. So 4, no good. 6, no. 8, no. 12, no. 24, no. 1 isn't prime. Our only prime numbers that we have here are 2 and 3. Okay, and then we're trying to figure out ways that we can multiply these numbers together to get to 24. So 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 3 is 24. Okay, so that is the correct answer, and that's answer choice B. A different way that you can do it, whoops, sorry, wrong answer choice. Answer choice C. 2, 2, 2, and 3, right? That's what we have right here. Okay, so another way that you could go about and doing it is just just guess and check. So take the answer choices. So first answer choice A is 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. That doesn't work, right? Okay. So you know that one's wrong. 2, 2, and 3. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. That one doesn't work. 2, 2, 2, and 3. Right? That's the one we have. We know that one equals 24. And then the other answer choice is 2 and 11. 2 times 11 is 22. That doesn't work. And it's also 11 was not one of the factors of 24. So if it's not a factor, it can't be a prime factor. Sometimes these take a little bit of practice, getting comfortable with the numbers and with primes. Again, the video that goes over more examples might be a good idea. The app might be a good idea also. Okay, distance equals rate times time. These, if you had to pick one question in math that I think will show up for sure, it would be this. Okay, and here's a second formula for this practice test that we need to know. D equals RT, that stands for distance equals rate times time. Okay, and so when you get a question, a distance equals rate times time question, is they're going to give you two of the things. Like they'll give you the distance and they'll give you the time, and you got to solve for rate or something. So let's take a look. If Henry travels 40 miles at a rate of 120 miles per hour, how long did it take for him to travel that distance? Okay, so they're asking how long. Okay, so we're solving for time. Okay, and we just plug the stuff in here. So said he travels 40 miles, that's the distance. D is 40. Okay, at a rate of 120 miles per hour. And then we're asking how long did it take, right? Okay, so divide each side by 120. So we just get T by itself. Okay, so 40 over 120 is the same as, you could cross off a 0 on the top and a 0 on the bottom, is the same as 4 out of 12. And 4/12 is the same as 1/3. Okay, so with 4/12, if I divide each side by 4, 4 divided by 4 is 1, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So T equals 1/3. Okay, so what does that mean? All right, because that's not any of our answer choices, right? So when I get T is 1/3, what that means is it's 1/3 of an hour. Okay, because we were doing that 120 was in miles per hour. Okay, so 1/3 of an hour. So if I go There's 60 minutes in an hour times 60 over 1. That will result in 1 times 60 is 60. 3 times 1 is 3. 60 divided by 3 is 20 minutes. Okay. So when you first see these, they can be complicated, and people do miss these a lot and ask a lot of questions about them. So it's certainly possible that you need to see several examples. But this is a good example of how to go ahead and set that up. Again, the thing you got to remember, distance equals rate times time. Okay, and so anytime it's, you get, there's like a distance thing in here, as you're thinking, okay, it's probably distance equals rate times time again. Okay, so distance, they say he runs a 5-minute mile, right? And they're saying, right, that they tell us right here, 5,280 feet in a mile. And the question is feet per second, right? How many feet per second is that? Okay, so our question then would be, if we want to calculate feet per second, this 5-minute thing is important. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that first. So I want to know, I've got the feet right here, 5,280 feet, that's how far he went. 5 minutes is how long it took. They're asking us feet per second. So in order to be able to solve that, I need to know how many seconds are in 5 minutes. Okay, how do we do that? Well, there's 60 seconds in a minute. 5 times 60 is 300, right? 5 times 6 is 30, and then we just add a 0. Okay, so now we have 300 seconds. Okay, so we're going to go 5,280 divided by 300. Okay, and this is feet, this is seconds. When we divide those, it's feet per second, right? And if I do 5,280 divided by 300, once you calculate that out without a calculator, 17.6 feet per second. Here's our answer. So that's a tricky one, but a good one to practice. Okay, and then we're jumping into circles. Okay, our third formula, the one we just did for the last couple, was distance equals rate times time. Area of a circle equals pi r squared, with r being radius. Okay, and we also need to know that diameter of a circle is twice the radius, right? So when I look at a circle, like this line that goes all the way through it, that would be diameter. Okay, when I look at a circle, this would be radius. Okay, so just knowing that diameter is twice as long as radius. Okay, so hopefully we got that in our mind. Area equals pi r squared. Diameter is twice as long as radius. Okay, so it says, what is the area of a circle with a diameter of 10? Okay, so if the diameter is 10, that would mean that the radius is 5, right? Because diameter is twice as long. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, now I got everything I need. So area equals, still just carry that pi down. We said radius was 5. Squared. 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25. Sorry, I'm writing all over the screen here. My circles got in the way. Right? 5 times 5 is 25, and don't worry about pi equals 3.14 ever again, right? We just write the answer as 25 pi, and that is answer choice D. Okay. All right, one more circle question. This one's a little trickier. But they do tell us the radius. We don't have to worry about diameter at least. Okay, so it says the radius of a circle A has length of 2 units. So for A, R equals 2. And radius of circle B, 10 units. So for B, R is 10. What is the ratio of area A to area B? Okay. So remember, right, area is pi r squared, yeah? So we're going to have to do that twice and then compare the two numbers. We'll show you how to do that. Okay, so for this one, we have area equals pi. It says the radius is 2 squared, yeah? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 pi for area A. Okay, then we go over to the circle B. Same thing, pi r squared, right? So pi, this times the radius was 10. Okay, 10 squared, or 10 times 10 is 100 pi. Okay, so we have 4 pi and 100 pi. Okay, so the pi's are the same, right? They represent the exact same number. So you can kind of forget about this, and basically what we're looking at is 4 to 100. Okay, and of course that's not one of our answer choices, right? All their answer choices, the first number is 1. Okay, so if I divide 4 by 4, I'll get 1, right? I gotta do the same thing over here. Okay, if I do that, I get 1. And 100 divided by 4 is 25. One to 25, bam. Answer choice D. So that's probably, for the ASVAB, as hard of a question as you'll get about circles or area of a circle, right? So it made you be able to find the area for 2 different circles and then do a ratio thing. Okay, so that's the end of math, but we still have 5 questions left. As I said in all the other ASVAB videos for the practice tests, there's 4 sections that count for your actual AFQT score, or your ASVAB score. And there's 2 math sections, so that makes up 50%. There's paragraph comprehension, which we're about to do, and then there's word knowledge, which is basically different types of vocabulary type questions. And so word knowledge is 25% of your score, paragraph comprehension 25%. Now there are other sections on the test, right? Like the science section or mechanics section. So if you want to work in mechanics or in science, then what you get on that part of the test is very important for you. It'll help get you placement into jobs. But if you don't care about science, for example, then it doesn't matter at all, right? So we're just going over the parts that impact your AFQT score, at least right here. Okay, so let's read this one. So paragraph comprehension. When you're doing paragraph comp, first thing, read what the actual question is so that we can know what we're looking for when we're answering the question. Okay, and so the question will always be either the first sentence or the last sentence. Okay, so here it says, according to the passage, that's the paragraph, some artists work with titanium because it something. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Why do artists work with titanium? That's what we want to be focusing on as we read the paragraph. Okay, so it says a thin transparent layer of oxide protects the metal titanium against corrosion. It doesn't tell us anything about why artists work, so we ignore that sentence. The same thin layer attracts artists interested in making their art with the help of technology. Okay, technology has given us a little bit, right? Maybe it's going to have something to do with technology. By using heat or electricity, an artist can thicken the oxide layer and thereby turn the metal a range of vivid colors. Okay, so they really told us the most right at the end. Okay, so they gave us some details about technology and stuff. Okay, but nobody just uses technology just to use it. It's always like there's some output that they want. A range of vivid colors. So that's what the technology enables. Okay, so now we've hopefully got our mind focused on what we were looking for, and let's see our answer choices. Okay, some artists work with titanium because it is transparent. No. Does not corrode. No. Generates its own heat. No. Can assume a variety of colors. Yes. Okay, and so that's what you want to have going on in your own head as you're reading it. But if you didn't read the question first, is they threw a lot of information at you with words that we're not all necessarily used to, like thin transparent layer of oxide, and then we can have to read it a couple times, and time does count, right? It's a time test. Okay, another paragraph comp one. Okay, so you can see this one just says according to this passage. Okay, so that's not that useful. So now we're just going to read the thing and then look at the questions. Okay. Alexander Hamilton established the first bank of the United States in 1791. Its purpose was to help finance industrial expansion. However, there's a good chance that's going to have something to do with it, right? When you see purpose, that tends to matter a lot. Okay. Finance industrial expansion. Okay. So that's like, I'm thinking without even looking at the answer choices, that might matter. However, many politicians oppose national banks. Okay, that also might matter. Because of this opposition, bank was closed in 1811. Okay, then let's see what the answer choices they give us. According to this passage, politicians opposed industrial expansion. Okay, so that's a tricky one, right? So here it says politicians opposed national banks. Okay, having opposed national banks and having opposed industrial expansion are not necessarily the same thing. So I'm guessing that's not going to be the right answer. It's like it could be true. Could be true is not the same as true, especially on standardized tests. Answer choice B. The Bank of the United States was one of the many national banks established in the 18th century. Okay. Maybe. Maybe. So we'll throw that in there. You're kind of having to extrapolate that answer a little bit. So it says that he established the first bank of the United States in 1791. Then it says at the end, the bank was closed in 1811. Does not really say that it was one of many national banks. Because it says first, you could kind of assume that, maybe. Anyways, answer choice C. The purpose of the bank was to finance industrial expansion. Okay, and you remember with that second sentence, we said its purpose was to help, and then we underlined finance industrial expansion. Finance industrial expansion, like exactly the same. It says it right there. It's got to be it. But let's look at answer D to make sure. Answer A was definitely wrong. Answer B is kind of vague. Like, vague is not usually the one. Answer D, the bank closed in 1811 owing to a lack of customers. So what it said was many politicians opposed national banks because of this opposition. The bank was closed in 1811, not due to lack of customers. So I don't like that one either. So based on this kind of rationale and thought process, we go with answer choice C. Okay. So people tend to go way too fast with this stuff, right? And then they jump at things that they thought they read. Take your time with it. I think that's probably like one of the biggest things in testing is take your time reading this stuff. As you do it, you're much more likely to get the right answer. And that is the right answer, answer choice C. Okay, and for these last three, we're going to do vocab type stuff, word knowledge. The military demanded that he relinquish the throne. Relinquish most nearly means, Okay, so especially when they do a sentence, you gotta love that, because then it helps in case you don't know what the word relinquish is you can kind of like guess at what it means based on all the other words. Which, by the way, that's how like we develop our vocabulary. Is do we do that all the time? Where you hear somebody talk and they give a word that you don't know, but if you know what all the other words means and you can check out their tone, is we can kind of guess at what the word means, and then we hear it again, and that's usually how we learn. It's not by Googling it necessarily. Okay, so what does relinquish mean? The military demanded that he relinquish the throne, right? So we're looking for something like give up, like he gave up the throne, right? Especially when we know that the military demanded it. Okay. Answer A, maintain. That can't be right? That's not what. Devalue, like not applicable. Doesn't really make any sense. Polish, doesn't make any sense. Renounce. Okay, so there's a chance that you're not quite sure what renounce means. Right, but given all the other choices, this is how you kind of think about these kind of things, is it has to be the answer because the other ones didn't make any sense at all. And renounce is the correct answer. Okay, negligible. So negligible most nearly means, and so this is one where either you sort of know what negligible means or not. Right, so if you don't, it'll be hard to answer the question. But as we go through them, so if you do know what it means, great, right? Then that makes it a lot easier. But if you don't, then you're looking for, are there answers rather than just being like, oh, I'll go with answer choice A. Is there anything we can eliminate? And so then what you're looking for, are there two answer choices that mean something very similar? And if they are, it's probably that they're both incorrect. Okay, so as we look at these, answer choice B says significant. Answer choice D says noteworthy. So significant and noteworthy, those are very similar words. They mean almost exactly the same thing. They're pretty interchangeable, right? His accomplishment was significant. His accomplishment was noteworthy. Like, very similar. So because of that, you should be able to eliminate those two. Okay, and then if you really don't know what negligible means, then you probably have to guess. But it does most nearly mean trivial. And if you feel like you're getting words that like you've heard of but you can't really define, trying to spend some time reading, like 15 minutes a day, reading a military blog or something like that will really help you get used to those kind of terms. If it's more military based, help you even more because there is a military emphasis on the test, of course. And last one. Sorry. Sorry about that. Last question. I'll try to edit that out. In the following sentence, what is the meaning of the word precipitate? Okay, so there's the word we're looking for. My pen back. Precipitate. Seeing the look on Mr. Fleming's face as he entered the office, each of the workers stopped chatting and got busy because no one wanted to precipitate. That's our word, right? Another outburst like the one they had witnessed the day before. Okay, so with these, when you get like context, right, where you get a sentence or two. So each of the workers stopped chatting and got busy because no one wanted to precipitate another outburst like the one they'd witnessed the day before. So we're reading that, we're thinking precipitate would mean something like cause another outburst or lead to another outburst, something like that. That's what we're probably thinking. Precipitate means, if you're not familiar with the word, a lot of times as you read all the other stuff, it's pretty easy to guess at what the word actually means. Okay, so let's see what the answer choices are. To fall from air like rain or snow? No. A solid substance separated from a solution? No. To cause to happen suddenly? Sounds right. Answer choice D, to move rapidly. So answer choice D is that's kind of vague. Not really. Answer choice C sounds much better. And that is the correct answer. So that gets us to the end of level 2 practice test. So if you have any questions about anything that I did, please just leave a comment and we'll get somebody to respond and try to help you out. Again, there's a lot of other shorter videos on specific topics. Those are all referenced in the description, so checking those out might be useful. And for getting even more practice, check out the app, free to install.